Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today it is time for me to pick a book to read. So for my October TBR, for Chantel's Read Your Shelf Challenge, the prompt was history. And I have so many books that are related to history. Nonfiction, fiction, I got it all. So I made myself a stack of books and I want to read one of them, but I don't know which one I'm going to pick up first. And I may read more than one, but also, by the way, this was not intentional, but look at the lovely fallish nature of this stack of books. I mean, I did not do that on purpose, but you gotta admit, those colors worked out quite beautifully, right? Doesn't that just give you like fall October vibes? Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is, I did this in the summer to pick a book to go on vacation. I think I first saw this with Bookish Kelly, and I've seen some other booktubers do it. I forget what it's called. It's first sentence challenge or first paragraph challenge. I don't even know. But the idea is you read the first sentence or paragraph in a book, and then you rank the books based on that. And then you put the top one on your TBR. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read the first paragraph of these. I thought about doing a chapter tag, try a chapter tag, which is a very similar concept, but hello, that's a lot of books. I don't have time to read a chapter of each of them. That's like reading a whole entire book. So I'm just gonna read a paragraph. I'm gonna read it out loud. You're gonna work through this process with me, or you're going to watch me work through this process of reading and ranking the first paragraphs. And then I will choose a book based on that. To be honest, it didn't work so well for me in the summer because I ended up DNFing the book that won the challenge. Not too far into reading it, so I hope it works better this time. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I'll just place them right here as I rank them. Let's just start at the top. A Love Restored by Kelly Gosharn, which I got at a book festival. It is set in my area, like 15 minutes from where I live. And it is written by a Christian author. And it's set in a historic time period. So like 150 years ago when the trains first came through this area. Trains don't come through here anymore. The W&OD Railroad is now a trail. I don't even know where the tracks went. And I don't know what happened to that train. Like, I don't even know. Huh. I've actually never wondered about that. Interesting. Anyway, we don't have trains. They're slowly bringing the DC Metro further out this way. And we can drive 20-ish minutes from our house into Maryland and we can catch a commuter train into DC. But other than that, like we have to go to a city to catch a train. There's not like any train that goes. Anyway, you don't care about the trains. Let's read. Okay. So there's a verse as an epigraph. I always mix up the words. And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten. Joel 2:25a. Chapter 1. Loudoun County, Virginia. It's home. August 1873. Land's sakes, it was hot. Ruth Ann Sutton peeled the black stockings from her legs and stuffed them inside her boots. If only she could do the same with her insufferable corset. She wiped her brow. Perspiration moistened her hairline, tightening the loose strands on her neck into corkscrews. Buddy's tongue hanging from the corner of his mouth. Let me try that again. Buddy's tongue hung from the corner of his mouth as he meandered to the stream for a drink. She stooped beside him, running her fingers through his plush red fur. Well, she's very hot. She's wearing too many clothes. Okay. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like drawing me right in. So I don't know. We'll see. This has been on my TBR for a while. I've read other books by this author, Siri James. I do want to read this one. I've heard great things. The Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte. This also would work really well for Victober for obvious reasons. So let's see. We got a couple maps. Okay, so map of Europe. And then a map of England. Heart of England. An author's foreword. Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte, Volume 1. We've got a lot of front matter here. There we go. Actual story. 1. Well, there's only one sentence in the first paragraph. I have received a proposal of marriage. Then the first paragraph after that. Diary. This offer, which came some months past, has thrown my entire household, nay, the entire village, into an uproar. Who is this man who has dared to ask for my hand? Why is my father so dead set against him? Why are half the residents of Haworth determined to lynch him or shoot him? Since the moment of his offer, I have lain awake night after night, pondering the multitude of events which have led up to this conflagration. That's a great word. How on earth, I wonder, did things get so out of hand? Well, interesting. We have a proposal of marriage setting the whole village in an uproar. That's definitely starting off with more of import than being super hot. By a stream with a dog, not knowing what's going on. I'm going to put it above there for now. Ladies of the Lake by Kathy Golke. This has been on my shelf for about a year. And I also met the author, who is local to me, at a book festival. Okay, it has a... Okay, when I do these things, I never know. Should I read the prologue or the first paragraph? I guess I'm going to read the prologue. It's about a paragraph. We, Susanna Eudora Calhoun, Ruth Mason Hennessy, Dorothy Marie Belding, and Adelaide Rose McNeil, hereafter known as the Ladies of the Lake, do solemnly swear this day of our graduation from Lakeside Ladies Academy, July 9th in the year of our Lord, 1910, that we shall stick by one another through thick and thin, maintain a healthy correspondence from wherever in the world our paths might wander, and be always at the ready to come to the aid of any sister among us in need. To the best of our ability, we vow to meet here in this hallowed gazebo every 2 years to reclaim and celebrate our sisterhood. Nothing but death will free us from these vows. Signed and sealed with pinpricks of our blood. And it lists their names and Farmington, Connecticut, July 9th, 1910. And then the first chapter actually begins in 1935. So, well, that is certainly intriguing, setting up an interesting concept, but I have no idea where it's going from there. I've read the back before, but I can't remember anything. I do like the sound. This is hard, guys. This is hard because all three of these have sounded equally interesting to me. Like, they've all been good openings. Just so far, the Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte is more, there's been more going on. So more of an idea of what the story is going to be about. I guess. I don't know. But I think that one's still on the top. I do like Ladies of the Lake and the other one. They're both about the same, actually. Well, Ladies of the Lake maybe slightly more so because it is that unique concept of 4 or however many it was, girls, you know, pledging to meet every 2 years. That is definitely a more unique setup. So I guess it edges out the book slightly. Yeah. Okay, then we have The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. And I really want to read this one. I went to the library where the personal librarian worked, but I haven't read it yet. And I've heard really good things from a lot of people. So, Chapter 1, November 28th, 1905, Princeton, New Jersey. The Old North bell tolls the hour, and I realize that I'll be late. I long to break into a sprint, my voluminous skirts lifted, my legs flying along the Princeton University pathways. But just as I gather the heavy material, I hear Mama's voice. Belle, be a lady at all times. I sigh. A lady would never run. I like the picture that's presented there, but first person present tense is not exactly thrilling me. It's not my favorite. Maybe it moves on from that after the first opening. I don't know. It's not my favorite. I will read the book eventually, first person, notwithstanding, but since I'm trying to rank them as to what I like and don't like and what's grabbing me at the moment, it's going to go at the bottom for now. Miss Spitfire, Reaching Helen Keller. And I love, you can't tell probably, but it has Braille here on the cover. I love that. right, let's see. Oh, and this is clearly meant for a younger audience. Look at that large font. So it definitely would not take a great deal of time to read, I don't think, with those big letters. All right, we have some quotes at the beginning here. I feel sure that if you write this book, I shall know you deeply for the first time. I've always realized that there are chapters in the book of your personality which remained sealed to me. Helen Keller to Anne Sullivan, 1916. Deep in the grave, our dust will stir at what is written in our biographies by Anne Sullivan. So true. Okay. Miss Spitfire, Chapter 1, Epigraph. It's an epigraph, right? Yeah. The man who sold us that ticket ought to be hanged, and I'd be willing to act as hangman. Well, Anne Sullivan to Sophia Hopkins, March 1887. I'm guessing she was not very happy. Ticket, please. Okay, that's the first sentence. All by itself. I'm going to read the next paragraph. I wipe up my eyes and thrust the wretched thing at him. I've already had to change trains 6 times since Boston. Yeah, the book started in Boston, yeah? On top of that, I have to take this train north to Knoxville to catch yet another train south to Alabama. That's confusing. Okay. So apparently she started in Boston. She's changed trains 6 times already, and now she's south of Knoxville, but she needs to go north to Knoxville to catch a train south to Alabama. Whoa. Well, that's the second one involving a train, but honestly, it's the least interesting of the ones so far that I've read, so it's going to go at the bottom of the stack. Mask of Honor by Sharon Vertz. This is another one set in my area of the world, and also I love this map here at the beginning. Very cool. Also in Loudoun County. Oh, hey. Oh, it's signed. Not to me, but it's signed. That is a really cool looking bookmark. I like that. Wow, I guess I never opened up this book before. Okay, Family Tree. That means there's going to be a lot of... Wow, okay. There's more than one family tree. All right. Whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, The Mask of Pandora. There are a lot of epigraphs in this book. Okay, and once again, we have a prologue rather than the starting of the book. The prologue is February 6th, 1819, Bladensburg, Maryland. A crowd of onlookers had gathered in the half-light of dawn as wind whipped through the bare branches of alders along the banks of the Blood Run. Despite the unrelenting storm, both the bloodthirsty and the curious had traversed nearly a mile from the edge of town through blowing snow to the grove along this stony tributary to bear witness to this morning's affair of honor. A duel. The townspeople gathered in silence, huddled against the tempest and bitter cold as they waited for the formalities to conclude and the signal to be given. Well, that is a very interesting scene being set, and yet it's in the winter and I'm not ready for that. So I may still end up reading it in October, but also I'm not feeling the cold, snowy winter vibes right this moment. The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This is the last one. This has been on my TBR for a couple years. Once again, we have a map. This is Cold War Europe, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So I thought it was a backstory to Dracula, but clearly we're starting after, before we go back. A note to the reader. Okay, there's a quote from Dracula at the beginning of part 1. How these papers have been placed in sequence will be made manifest in the reading of them. All needless matters have been eliminated so that a history almost at variance with the possibilities of later day belief may stand forth as simple fact. There is throughout no statement of past things wherein memory may err, for all the records chosen are exactly contemporary, given from the standpoints and within the range of knowledge of those who made them. Okay. Wow, we got a long first paragraph, so settle in. Chapter 1. In 1972, I was 16. Young, my father said, to be traveling with him on his diplomatic missions. He preferred to know that I was sitting attentively in class at the International School of Amsterdam. In those days, his foundation was based in Amsterdam, and it had been my home for so long that I had nearly forgotten our life in the United States, our early life in the United States. It seems peculiar to me now that I should have been so obedient well into my teens, while the rest of my generation was experimenting with drugs and protesting the imperialist war in Vietnam. But I had been raised in a world so sheltered that it makes my adult life in academia look positively adventurous. To begin with, I was motherless, and the care that my father took of me had been deepened by a double sense of responsibility, so that he protected me more completely than he might have otherwise. My mother had died when I was a baby, before my father founded the Center for Peace and Democracy. My father never spoke of her and turned quietly away if I asked questions. I understood very young that this was a topic too painful for him to discuss. Instead, he took excellent care of me himself and provided me with a series of governesses and housekeepers. Money was not an object with him where my upbringing was concerned, although we lived simply enough from day to day. Well, we get a lot of backstory for our narrator here, but it doesn't really tell me much what's going to be happening in the story. I mean, it makes sense that the historian would be looking back at what happened. Do I want to change anything? And where do I want to put this one? I just don't even know. This is really hard. I'm going to put this one right in the middle because it was good. And I do want to read more, but it also didn't really hook me as far as what's going to happen in the story. And it tells me that there's going to be a lot of setting up of the story before we get to the actual story. So if I'm ranking first paragraphs, it's not a winner from that context. But I think it probably is a very good book. Actually, I think the same could be said for quite a few of these. So here's my stack. At the bottom we have The Mask of Honor, only because it's set in the winter. At the beginning, and I think it's only the beginning. I think it moves on from there. So that's not really like a big reason to not read it. But at the moment, that's just not pulling me in. A Duel in the Winter is not appealing to me at the moment. And then up from there, we have Miss Spitfire, which was kind of a confusing paragraph about traveling on trains. And Anne Sullivan is clearly very irritated. I do want to read it, but it didn't strike me as being a very appealing first paragraph. So for ranking by first paragraphs, it was not a stellar one. And then we have this one. First person, present tense. I'm going to save that for another day. The Historian, looking back before we're looking forward. I can also tell by the length of it, like we're going to be doing a lot of that, a lot of setting up the story. So there's a lot going on right there. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that. And then this one was interesting. I liked the tone. This one is A Love Restored, Kelly Koshner. This was the character. Sorry, this is heavy. This was the girl who was really hot and was peeling off her stockings and wanting to do the same with her corset. So I liked the tone of the narration, and I have no idea where the story is going from there. That's the only reason. I don't have it higher, but I liked the tone, and I liked the sense that we were getting from our narrator in the story. Then we have The Ladies of the Lake, intriguing concept for I think women who, make a pact and seal it with blood to meet each other every 2 years at a gazebo. And I'm interested to see what's happening with their lives. Clearly going to be like a women's fiction kind of story, which sounds good to me. So that is interesting, but I think slightly edging it out is The Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte, only because this one does start off with, I think we have a good sense of, in part because I know Charlotte Bronte, and I know, anyway, so I have a good idea where it's going, and I like how she started it off. I like that it's diary entries, because, I love me epistolary. So, and I liked the tone of the writing in the diary. So I think I'm going to go with that. So doesn't mean I won't read any others in this stack. I will read them all eventually, hopefully, and I may read some others in October, but I'm going to read The Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte. And I think it's also a good choice because it is actually set in Victorian era. Charlotte Bronte is a Victorian author, so it works with the Victober readathon. I don't know if it fits any of the prompts. So I'll have to look at that. I don't know if they have an option there for reading books set in Victorian times. I think so, or about Victorian people. Whatever. It's gonna work. Okay, it's gonna be for Victober as well as for Chantel's Read Yourself Challenge. So there we go. I'm going to be reading The Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte.